Welcome to Healed, Whole, Called, the podcast where stories of trauma meet the healing power of Jesus. Each week, we journey with women who have walked through pain, wrestled through the process, and now stand in the promise of who God called them to be. This is more than storytelling. This is sacred space, where honesty is welcome, healing is possible, and hope is alive. And now, here's your host, Wendy Melrose.
Hello, everybody. Today's guest is a living testimony of God's sustaining grace. Cathy Garrett is a Christian wife and mom of two who, in 2019, survived a rare and life-threatening birth complication, an amniotic fluid embolism that led to a stroke. By God's mercy, both she and her daughter survived, and nearly 6 years later, Cathy continues to her recovery with unwavering faith. She is the host of the Birth Trauma Stories podcast and founder of Trauma Tribe, using her voice to raise awareness for maternal health, AFE, blood donation, and disability advocacy, ensuring survivors are seen, heard, and supported. So, hello, Cathy.
Hello, Wendy. Good morning.
So, this is really exciting. And I know people, when they hear about complications in birth, it can bring fear, especially to women who are currently pregnant. So
Absolutely.
I want to create a space where, things are rare, but there's things we can prepare for. And so I want to make sure we get into that. And also I at one time I had studied and was a birth doula. And so
cool.
I'm a big advocate of mother's choice. And I prefer the natural birth realm, where but here's the thing. Sometimes things happen. But
Absolutely.
when we educate ourselves on not necessarily going through what are all the things that could go wrong when having my baby, but instead going, what team can I surround myself to advocate on my behalf to keep me and my baby the safest? And what can I do to prepare if something goes wrong, not when? So share with us about where obviously this was all a surprise in the birth process. Was there any signs or anything at all that could give you any indication that this might have been a thing, or it just happened?
So typically with AFE or amniotic fluid embolism, it really just happens. It goes it really goes from 0 to 100 in a matter of moments. And so I will say though, when I was pregnant, I was really struggling with the decision to have a VBAC or a vaginal birth after cesarean or another cesarean or C-section. And because I had a C-section with my first, and I think we're like-minded in that I tend to prefer like just in my health in general, the least amount of medical intervention possible. I just try to be really holistic and healthy and really just seek what God has for me in my health. So when I was pregnant, or when we found out I was pregnant, I was really just struggling with this decision. And I remember our pastor's wife at the time, she said, I want you to open-handed prayer. And so I literally did that on the way home from church. And just and it wasn't an instantaneous thing. It was just over time, as time evolved. I just really, I mean, we probably took a month to pray about this, because the OB that I delivered my first with, I loved them, but they don't do VBACs. Then the second one said I was not a candidate for VBAC because I had failure to progress with my first. And that was really discouraging. And that's when, again, I was wrestling with this decision. And then, if I remember correctly, we took a month, maybe a month and a half, to just pause and just really seek what God had for our baby. And the second OB, the one who denied me for failure to progress, she misdiagnosed a short cervix. And that led me to an MFM.
What does that mean?
A maternal, oh, I knew you were going to ask that. A maternal fetal medicine doctor or high risk doctor.
Oh, okay.
And so again, I didn't ask him right off the bat, but after I'd seen him maybe 3 times, I asked him, do you think I might be a candidate for a VBAC? And he was kind of like, well, I think you should try. And I was like, okay. And that led me to finding the OB who um, cared for me throughout my pregnancy. And a very long story short, that OB only delivers at one hospital in Orlando, so a decent size metropolis. And when I delivered, I needed a machine called uh, when I delivered, I needed a machine called ECMO. And at that time, that was the only hospital in Orlando that did ECMO for adults.
Okay.
And they
But
said,
you didn't know this going in. You just
correct.
happened to be needing it and God ordained it all. Like, so like that's one of
Yeah,
the cool things people don't always understand, but why? God knows the beginning to the end and the end to the beginning.
absolutely.
So I would just, so it just happened to be when you get to that part of the story that you needed this ECMO
Uh-huh.
or whatever, and you happen to be at the only hospital in Orlando with one.
Yeah, and so there is another hospital that has ECMO, but they only do it for pediatrics.
Oh,
And my team told my husband I probably would not have even survived a life flight across town. I
wow.
probably would have delivered at the hospital where my first daughter was born. And those two hospitals are maybe 12, it's a 12-minute drive. But,
Mm,
there's a lot of prep that goes with getting a patient on a helicopter.
sure.
So, I wholeheartedly know now God ordained that. And I even had a family member tell me once, well, you trying for a VBAC caused the AFE. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, let's back up
Wow,
a
that's
step.
nice.
Yeah, not a kind comment. But that was a trauma response, and I acknowledge that. I've had trauma responses and have spoken out of tongue, so there's
Yeah.
grace. But, I just think like taking that step back and being like, well, let's look at the whole picture and let's look at what God did in the whole picture. Because even when I was on ECMO, like they told my husband a 1% chance of survival. So out of 100, I would be that one person who would survive, and I had to fight really hard. So did God. Like we both had to fight really, really hard for me to survive. And did unfortunately my AFE did leave me disabled.
Okay.
So that has a lot of nuances and a lot of hardships, and it impacts our family in a lot of ways. At the same time, I wasn't supposed to survive.
Right.
So, there's a lot of beauty in that as well.
Right. Well, we never know why God brings us to where we're at. And the
Hmm.
what ifs and the whatevers will just drive us crazy.
Absolutely.
And then that's kind of one of the things that I love about where God has brought me to today. Sorry, I don't mean to get emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma, tragedy to victory is where he lives.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in the other stuff too. But people, I think, just want to dismiss the fact that, well, if you wouldn't have done this, this wouldn't have happened. And then therefore, but there's so many people listening today that, like, so what is the percentage of women who have this complication in pregnant in delivery?
Well, it's extremely rare, so it's about 1 in 40,000. And I had someone tell me once, well, that doesn't sound super rare. And I said, that's 25 people in a million deliveries. And
Yeah.
she was like, oh, wow. Okay, yeah, yeah. Now I understand the scope.
Right.
And even I just lost my train of thought. I just completely went blank.
It's okay. So I'll kind of bring it around a different way. So, um, though it might be rare, if we look at the bigger picture of what we could teach women who could be currently in the gestation period of, God knitting this baby in their womb
Hmm.
and going through, I don't know what to do. I want to, like, I had delivered my first child in a hospital, had to
Hmm.
fight to have what I wanted. This was back in 2012, where in St. Louis it wasn't quite acceptable for holistic moms to do whatever they wanted. They can
Hmm.
still fight them, but they know to submit to the mom now more. Unless there's
Hmm.
an emergency intervention, which is different.
Absolutely.
But and then I had my son at home on purpose because I wasn't going to deal with the hospital realm ever
Hmm.
again. So I did have someone tell me, oh, you're going to die. Your baby's going to die. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's awesome. And so that was actually the day before. I'm like, you know what, Lord, we're going to prove that we're going to do this. So I rubbed clary sage on my stomach and frankincense on my ankles. And the next morning I was in delivery. I had the baby the next day. And I'm like, I proved to them that
Mm,
I was gonna be fine.
yeah.
But let's just say there's several women listening that want to learn how to surrender the different decisions that it takes, one of the things that I learned even in doula training is women will spend more time planning for their wedding than they will ever plan on having their baby. And a human comes out of them, whether vaginally or surgically. It's a
Yeah.
big deal. And so, what guidance could you give them on how to surrender and listen to the Lord on what is the right thing to do? And obviously, every single one of us, the answer is going to be different.
Oh, absolutely. I think, but first and foremost, prayer. Like you just have to go and seek him. And when I was really wrestling with that decision, I could almost feel myself clinging to what I wanted versus what God wanted. And when
Mm.
I re opened my hands and released that, it was really freeing. And it's nuanced now, what I know now and not what I know can happen. But like with my first, I did want a home birth, but there wasn't a hospital within 30 minutes of us. So it was
Mm.
very, if something, God forbid, did happen, we wanted to be in a hospital. And I don't feel like I was dismissed or um, pressured. I was definitely uneducated. And I felt the majority of that to myself because I didn't prepare. At the same time, I feel like the OB could have prepared me more. So,
They won't. They want to do it their way.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to be sarcastic or
No, but it's true.
rude.
I didn't think
So,
that was rude, but you're right. It's absolutely true. They know their training and that's it. And even going through this journey of recovery, I was on pain medicines that caused me to gain a lot of weight, and I made the decision to come off of them. And then obviously my pain got bad again. And so I went to the my PCP and was like, "Hey, what are our options?" She was like, "Pain meds or steroids?" And I was like, "Both of those cause you to gain weight. I'm not
mm,
sure what to do." And then I found this amazing practice that it's still a DO, so a medical doctor, but different than an MD. And but they do different like acupuncture and they do it's not a procedure, but they do a treatment is probably a better way to say it. They do a treatment that is similar to chiropractic care, but much
uh-huh.
more gentle, and it really aligns your body to allow your body to try and heal itself as much as possible because God did create our bodies to heal
Yes, we
themselves.
did.
And so, and two, like I realized also I have to release because for 4.5 years, I never took a break from rehab. And
Mm.
at the time, I was doing 3 different rehabs, just continuous 4.5 years straight. And that was the wrong decision. And I encourage people now, like, you need breaks, like, take 6 weeks or take a summer or, take how, like, if you go 4.5 years straight, because mind you, yeah, I'm in the clinic, but I'm also doing a home rehab program. So, it's really encompassing a lot of my day.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I realized I was trying to heal my body in my own strength and in my own power when it's really, I'm blanking on the name, Jehovah Rapha, who
Yeah.
heals our body. Like it's not in my
Right.
timing, it's not
Right.
in my power, it's in his timing and his power
That's
that
so
he
true.
heals me. And I have to I'm still working on this. I'll be honest. I'm still working on it. But I have to get to that place that, like, if I'm disabled for my entire life, that's okay. And at the same time, God could heal my body completely tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing that this disability and these issues are probably going to be lifelong is really hard. I was 34 when this happened. And so, yeah, I was 34 when this happened. And so, becoming like walking into a hospital to have a baby and being willed out disabled there really aren't words to accurately describe what that is like and the impact that it's had on my family, in particular with my husband, because I mean, he brought our baby home before I even woke up from my coma.
Wow. How long was it? How long were you in a coma?
So I was in a coma for 9 days,
Wow.
which in comparison, they thought I would be in the hospital 6 to 8 months, and I was in the hospital, quote unquote, only a month.
Hmm.
Um, but still, a month is a really long time to be in a
Sure.
hospital. And but yeah, like I said, he brought our baby home on day 4, which was incredible because I was still pregnant when this happened, and she was born lifeless. She was not making effort to breathe. She had an APGAR score of 2. And so they did have to resuscitate her and take her to the NICU. And then she was on the ventilator, I think, for like 30 minutes or an hour. And then she was on oxygen for like, I think 24 or 48 hours. It was just really incredible how God quickly healed her body.
Hmm.
And she did have a feeding tube, and she was really struggling to take the bottle. And I always wanted to nurse. I got to nurse my first daughter, and it was a really beautiful experience. And so I wanted to nurse my second. And they debated, actually, my husband, Eli, he sought counsel from our pediatrician, and she's a good family friend. So we know her personally as well as professionally. But they were really torn on, do they continue to pump me? Do they just let my milk dry up? Things like that. And ultimately, they decided not to pump me because they felt like my body needed to work on other things than producing milk.
Sure. And you needed to
And
work on healing.
say that again?
You needed to work on healing.
Exactly. And I've gotten to reconnect with one of the occupational therapists who helped take care of me when I was in a coma. And I don't remember this, but she said that they kept having to change out my gowns because it was so wet with milk. And like that honestly breaks my heart because I did not get to nurse her.
Hmm.
And after I got home, so mind you, I had not been pumped for a month. I pumped for 2 months trying to get my milk to come back. And I was
Right. Because
getting
that can
like,
happen.
it can happen. And I tried everything, but with all of the medication that I was on, I had a massive blood loss. Like I received 102 units of blood and
Wow.
blood products. Um, and I was getting like an ounce, maybe half an ounce a day. Like it was just, and it was starting to impact my mental health. And I'll never forget, it was New Year's Eve. I made the decision to stop pumping, and I just cried. I cried for like an hour. And it was so sad to me. And looking back, I see I see why I was so upset at the same time, again, like taking that step back and looking at the whole picture, like God did a lot in our story. And if I don't get to nurse my baby, well, that 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 was not fun. Like it does stink. Like I felt like I didn't have a connection with her. I remember even someone told me to try and do skin to skin, but I had open heart surgery. So I have a scar on my chest. So my scar is still healing. And I tried to do it, and it was just so foreign to me. It was such a different experience than I had with my first. And while God has redeemed the bond with and the relationship with my second daughter, I'll never get those moments back of like having that little newborn right on my chest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I probably never will because my scar is still sensitive. I don't like people to touch it. Um,
I mean, maybe I know this sounds weird and it's many years from now, but maybe the Lord will redeem that when you have grandkids.
yeah,
It'll
who
be
knows?
decades away. And so hopefully
Yeah,
the sensitivity is gone. We don't know what he's gonna do.
yeah,
And but he knows your heart and your heart's
yeah.
desire, and he never forgets any of that.
Absolutely. And even backing up, so I found out I was pregnant in January, and my twin sister had a baby in late January. And I went up to help her, and um, she had gone through her own perinatal trauma, unfortunately. And we're sitting in the hospital room, and the baby's crying. And I just saw her kind of look over at the baby, and it was you could just see the exhaustion on her face. And so I pick up the baby and she's still fussing, fussing, fussing. And my sister says, well, I think she really wants to do skin to skin. And I spoke up and I was like, well, do you want me to do skin to skin with her? And like that moment that I got with my niece, knowing that just 9 months later, I wouldn't get that with my own daughter, like my bug and I have such a special bond. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
God already did redeem it. It's not what I would have picked, I'll be honest. But, God did at least give me something that year to be like, wow, this is really cool.
So, like, share with us, fast forward to now. Like, obviously, you've been working on healing, you go through therapy. Your daughter's now 6.
She'll be 6 next month,
Okay.
almost 6.
And what was that? What did that healing look like for you and for your daughter? Like, what was it that God did specifically, or even showed up in a way that was unexpected?
He showed up in so many ways. So, I mean, first and foremost, like my daughter is perfectly healthy, like no long-term impact. And she just really, my younger sister actually calls her our family's ray of sunshine. And I think the Lord just knew that we needed this over the top, loud, smiley little girl to just keep our family so encouraged and so happy. And I mean, we had people coming out of the woodworks when it first happened. And I mean, someone paid to have our yard mowed for an entire year
Oh, that's awesome.
just to relieve some of the pressure off my husband. And even like I don't even know how many at this point, but I've had a lot of subsequent hospitalizations. And so we have a website that I used. Actually, one of my good friends created it, but I've kind of taken over as time has gone on. But anytime I had a rehospitalization, I was like, hey, meals would be really great. Easter 2020, I spent in the hospital, which was again not fun. But I had someone bring me a home cooked meal so I didn't have to eat hospital food on Easter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even, I went through an intensive speech therapy program and I had someone mail a $5,000 check to me, and even now I'm trying to pay for a service dog. Service dogs are really expensive. Now,
Yeah.
granted, it's a lot of money to train these dogs, but even like for the layperson, $10,000 is a lot of money. And so just last week I had someone else donate money for my service dog, and I just think the Lord continues to show up in ways, so many unexpected ways. And even my insurance no longer pays for occupational therapy. And so
Mm.
there's a clinic only 45 minutes from my house that offers free occupational therapy to the underinsured and like myself, who their insurance doesn't pay anymore, or people who don't have insurance at all. And like that place, it's a breath of fresh air. Like the therapists there are so special and really care so much about their patients, even beyond the therapy that they're working on. Like they care about your family and they care about how your heart is. One therapist in particular, she could tell if I was just even having an off morning. I was like, hey, you're not your normal self. What's going on? And we would talk about it. So and I think it's so beautiful that while I may be having an off morning, at the same time, like maybe another day someone else is having, maybe my therapist is having an off morning, and then I get to speak life into them,
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and two, like probably the most unexpected way. I mean, when I met my husband, I knew he's the product of a broken home. And so his mom was a single mom for several years. And so it was him, his younger sister, and his mom. So, he is taking care of his family. And so I knew on some level, I knew he would provide for us. I knew he would work hard for our family. I knew he would be a really wonderful caregiver, but he's far exceeded what I could have ever imagined. And things that he's done for me, I'm like, ooh, I don't know that I could do that for my spouse, but good on ya, like it's kind of like,
In sickness and in health.
oh, yes, that's for sure. I'm sure if it came to it, I would, but there's something I don't like feet. That's one thing. I do not like feet. But at the same time, God created feet, so they're important. But yeah, that's probably the most beautiful, unexpected gift that the Lord has given me. I never imagined when I went to a New Year's Eve party that I'd meet, my best friend and my lifelong partner.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to share more about your trauma tribe.
So the Trauma Tribe is it's a free virtual support group that I host with my friend Atara Parkinson. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist. And once a month, it's the second Tuesday of the month, we just hop on. We use Discord
Mm-hmm.
and we just hop on and chat, and whatever comes up is what we talk about. Like we don't really have a plan. And so I just think it's, what God wants, where where someone needs healing through the
Mm-hmm.
Lord and through his eyes. And that came out of, so I started the podcast in 2022. I knew I needed I've always been a creative person, so I needed something that I could do within the bounds of my disability. Because I've always been a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the ways that I feel fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been a nanny and I've been like a caregiver to animals. So I just really love it. And so this is a way that while it's not perfect, I would love to be able to work full time and be able to create this really big thing in person and virtually. I can do once a month. I can do an hour once a month, and just hop on. And two, it was important to me for it to be free
Mm-hmm.
because perinatal trauma is expensive, very, very
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
So, and while we have other programs that are not free, I at least wanted to offer one that if someone can't afford, like I'm about to host a retreat next month, if someone can't afford to attend the retreat, then you can come to the tribe, which is completely free.
Nice. That's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
when the Lord had been leading me to help people write their trauma, tragedy to victory stories,
Hmm.
obviously, working with me one to one can be costly, right? But then
Yes.
I wanted to make sure that there was ways that people could get helped um on either a reasonable budget or even free. So like the Lord
Hmm.
led me to create a storytelling small group at my church. And
Oh, so
these women
cool.
are like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. I don't that's my son getting out of
That's
the
okay.
room and my dog's reacting like he's an intruder. So sorry.
That's okay.
All right. And so by helping these women write their stories, and
Hmm.
it's amazing to me um how much God uses what we are willing to donate in our time, our
Mm,
talent, and the gifts that He's given us. And
absolutely.
He will always provide as Jehovah Jireh, right?
Hmm.
And sometimes we don't always know where that comes from, but it doesn't always have to be money either.
Absolutely.
And I love that you give back. And what is the easiest way for someone who could be listening to join your trauma tribe?
So the easiest way would probably go the the easiest way would probably be to go to my website. It's under the resources tab, and you can see there where to join or where to sign up. You can also email me at Cathy@birthtraumastories.com, and my name is spelled Cathy.
And then the website is birthtraumastories.com.
Yes.
Okay. Super cool. And I love that you have that podcast because it's very difficult as a mom to live with birth trauma. Even though I did have both of my kids vaginally and successfully in the eyes of the world, my first child, I had, like, again, I had to fight for that. And even there were some things that had went on um that I had to heal from.
Yeah.
And because things, because she did end up in the NICU, and I was upset about
Oh.
it because I don't think they were right. And when anytime someone ends up, a baby gets in the NICU, it's very difficult to get them out. For your daughter to get out in 4 days, that's amazing. And for mine, I think she was in 7. And and just the whole fighting for your rights thing, like it's, while maybe not body trauma, it's emotional trauma because you're not
Absolutely.
feeling heard. So it's interesting that after I had her, I lost my literal voice.
Hmm.
And so I would talk real raspy, and like I had a hard time like getting any sounds out. Now I had an endocrinologist expert say it was my thyroid. So I took thyroid like supplemental support,
Hmm.
not medication, because I like to do everything holistically, and it started to come back and it was fine. But then someone goes, but maybe it was actually losing your physical voice because you lost your voice in that birth.
Absolutely. I mean, I think both can be true. Yeah, but that makes complete sense to me that you would lose your voice.
Yeah. And I mean, I got what I wanted, but it wasn't easy. Like,
Yeah.
it was so annoying. It's like I had a birth plan, I had the board, I was educated, I had taken all the classes. My husband was
Hmm.
ready. My mom was there, and my mom, like, literally witnessed them just saying, I will give you Pitocin. I'm like, but I'm already regular 2 minutes apart for the last hour. I'm bleeding because I'm dilating too quickly. And yet you're going to give me Pit. It was like they weren't paying attention.
I'm so
And
sorry.
so, and it's like, but what's funny is I thought I was fine. You're not, you always realize if there's a little hidden trauma you need to deal with when you get emotional when you tell your story.
Yeah, there's a
And
hurt there.
yeah, and I'm like, but here's the thing too, I use it to fuel the voice for other women because, like,
Yeah.
I have, I've even witnessed one of my doula patients or patients clients, whatever. She didn't have a good experience with because she had, so the baby was, I could see the heart rate dipping. And so I'm
Mm,
like, so they moved her in for a cesarean, and then she did not have a good experience with having the epidural put in. And I
okay.
go, she goes, so should I say anything? I go, when we remain silent, nothing changes.
Mm, yeah.
So it's like, I'm not saying you have to take it all the way up to the hospital board, but you at least have to place a formal complaint so that doesn't happen to anyone else. So that's what
Hmm.
I did. Like my whole experience at that hospital, I went all the way while I was there already. I just complained all the way up to the head of nursing. And now things are better. And I can't say it was only my voice, but it was probably the voice of many over time that said, hey, like, let's make sure we listen to what the mom wants. And if
Yeah.
she's not in distress or in any sort of physical danger, let her do things the way she wants her body to do it.
Yeah,
So, like,
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, interventions have their place, and I've seen them where they've saved lives, and it's clearly saved your life.
Yes.
So, we're not anti saving mom's life or anything like that. We're for mom's choice in keeping mom and baby safe the best way possible.
Well, emotionally
Right.
and mentally and physically. All are
Exactly.
true. And earlier you asked me how can people prepare? I would have those conversations with your partner, your husband, whoever your support person is going to be. I had a doula as well. I love
Mhm.
her. I mean, we're still good friends. So whoever that person is, I would have those conversations like, do you want Pitocin? Do you want, if God forbid, you are in a coma, do you want your family to pump you so you could potentially still nurse? I would have the conversation of, um, are you comfortable with a C-section if it gets to that? Like, where is your line? Because, like,
Mhm.
I have a sibling who opted for an elective C-section. Like she was like, all of y'all had perinatal trauma. No, thank you. I'm going for a C-section. And I wholeheartedly support her choice because she got to choose,
Sure.
and so I
And
think it's
that's,
important.
yeah, key there.
Yeah, I just think it's so important to have, like you said earlier, we prepare more for our wedding than pushing a human or having a human removed from our body, like birthing a baby. And so, even like in my sister's case, no, it was in my case, it was in my case that there was a shot. Again, like we tend to not give vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
We do a different protocol that still produces the same antibodies, just without all of the other stuff, we'll
Sure.
say. But there was a vaccine that our pediatrician, and she knows our wishes, and she actually, we treat our family very similarly to the way that she treats her own children, as far as medical intervention.
Mm-hmm.
And she said because it was such a traumatic birth, you should do this vaccine. I think it was vitamin K. I can't remember. But so like things change. So I think you need to have those conversations. If things go sideways, these are the things that I want.
Right.
And
These are the things I will allow. These are the things don't do no matter what.
yeah, these are a hard no.
Yeah.
And for me, we didn't discuss any of that. I will say, I'm getting chills thinking about it. There was a point, I must have been in my third trimester, but I remember sitting on the couch and I'm kind of trying to lay down and get comfortable because I'm so uncomfortable. I also have hypermobility, so pregnancy causes quite a bit of pain for me. So I was trying to get comfortable and I just look over at Eli and I was like, if something happens, I want you to go to the NICU with the baby and I want Brittany, our doula, to stay with me. And so that was another moment like, why would I have said that if God like wasn't putting something on my
Mm-hmm.
heart? I obviously didn't understand the scope of what would happen. Now, some people do.
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
Right.
Um, but even for my husband, he's having to make all of these rapid fire decisions. And so I think, yeah, I don't know. It's just talk to your support person.
Mm-hmm.
And because my doula and I did talk about like I want this, but not this. I want this and not this. Here is my line for going for a C-section. Here's my line for starting pit, things like that. But I think it's important to do it if you're married, with your husband, or like if your
Right.
mom, like if there's a family member who's also going to be in the room. I think it's
Right.
important too because like it sounds like you were pretty vocal, but if my mom were in the room, I'm not sure I would have been as vocal as it sounds like you were. My husband would. So thankfully I have him, but I just imagine like if my mom were in the room, like it'd be really great for her to know what I wanted as well,
Sure.
if that
Yeah,
makes
I think
sense.
to me, I believe anyone that you're going to have in the room, they need to know.
Good
Otherwise,
point.
if they don't know, they might question and cause doubt.
Yeah.
And so we always want like, look, this is the page. We're going to be all on the same page.
Yeah.
Don't second guess anything on the page. And if you do, you can stay out of the room until the baby's born or whatever.
Well, and I mean, I placed the boundaries. Like, we didn't have any family. So with my first, we had two family members in, no, it was four family members waiting in the waiting room.
Mm-hmm.
But for my second, that felt like too much. So we
Mm.
asked all family to wait,
Well, that was
um,
perfect.
and not come to the hospital until we called. And like, granted, when my husband had to make the calls, one of my siblings was like, well, Cathy didn't want us to come to the hospital. And my aunt spoke up and was like, well, things drastically changed. Get your butt in the car,
Go, Aunt.
Yeah, I was just like, really? Okay. You're
Wow.
not
Because
gonna show
siblings
up.
can be such special people.
I was gonna say butt heads, but you said
But
it so much
I would
nicer.
have probably used more harsher language, but the Lord's working on my tongue. I'm really trying to be better. So I know that we're, quite a few minutes into the podcast, but I wanted to make sure that I got one more question and then we'll go into the
Sure.
closing. I studied under hypnobirthing to learn
hmm
how to deliver and to learn all the different process of birthing a baby. What did you learn from something specific, like different that you would love to share with the audience?
So unfortunately, no. Looking back, especially with my first, I wish I would have. I mean, I watched like a lot of YouTube videos, but I think actually doing some sort of course really sets you up for success.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding what's happening to your body and the physiology and the way that God designed our bodies to give birth and the way that God designed a support person to hopefully be there so you're not alone.
Right.
That's really, I can only imagine how hard that would be if you're all alone and it's just you
Right.
in a bed or you birthing your baby by yourself.
Right.
But then I know I've heard of women who do free births and they choose to be by themselves. So I
Right.
think that's the epitome of this episode, like women's choice. What does mom want for her and her baby?
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. So, all right. How I always like to give my guests a choice for the
Sure.
audience. Do you want to bless them with encouragement or do you want to pray over them?
Ooh, I I think I want to bless them with encouragement, if that's
Okay, let's do
okay.
it.
So through this process, I've learned a lot, and I've never been closer to the Lord than the last 6 years. But at some point, we had a meeting for our kids' ministry, and the pastor asked, what do you want your children to know when they go off to college? Because there's an epidemic of kids leaving the church when they go off to college. And honestly, the question shocked me. So it took me about 10 minutes to come up with my answer. And I spoke up and said, hey, can I answer that question you asked 10 minutes ago? And they said, yeah, sure. And the Lord put on my heart, I want my children to know they can do hard things because of what Christ did for them on the cross. And that's become my mantra, if I could use the word mantra. I don't know that that's the right word, but even like if I'm having a hard rehab appointment or like I'm in a lot of pain or I don't want to go to rehab and I just want to stay in bed or I don't want to do my home program, I just say, Cathy, you can do hard things because of what Christ did for you on the cross. And
Oh,
God is
that's
calling you to this rehab appointment. God is calling you to this job, or God is calling you to this podcast. God is calling you to something in that moment, in that day. And if it's something you don't want to do or you're struggling, just pray about it. Just pray, like, Lord, I know I can do hard things because of what you did for me on the cross.
that is so amazing. I love that you shared that because, with even applies to our younger kids and obviously to ourselves, right?
Hmm.
So I really thank you so much, Cathy, for sharing your heart with us today. To our listeners, remember your story isn't over. You are not disqualified by what you're going through or even currently going through, what you've been through or what you're currently going through. And with Jesus Christ, you are healed, whole, and called. Until next time, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Healed, Whole, Called. If this episode spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe and share it with someone who needs to know that healing is possible, purpose is real, and God is still restoring. And before you go, visit resilience-press.com and download your free copy of Get to the Point of Self-Publishing, Wendy's guide to help you move from stuck to published with clarity and confidence. You'll find it in the free resources section. Until next time, stay rooted in truth, covered in grace, and always moving toward the promise.